request to explain what I mean regarding UFC. So it's really quite simple. The way they've gone about building the business was very smart. So those two brothers, the Fertitta brothers, Dana White, when they initially bought it to grow the business, what they did was pay their athletes minimal amounts. If you look at major sports in America, MLB, NFL, NBA, they pay 45 to 55% of revenue to athletes. So for all the money that comes in, 45 to 55% goes out to the athletes. Now in the UFC, this number is 17%. In any business, even if you're somebody that just cuts down trees, if you're able to pay your staff such minimal amounts compared to your competitors, you have all this excess money. You can market the business better. You can obviously do discounts for clients to bring in more revenue. Now, if that eventually gets a payment to the employees, it's not necessarily too bad of a thing. But for UFC, they did it to leverage the market value of the company. And then obviously you got peak hype. You had Conor McGregor, you had Ronda Rousey. It was a huge, big thing happening and they sold the business. Now, Dana still works in UFC, but he sold his majority stake and now he's on an earnout, which means he gets 7% of net income of what the business generates and he gets a salary as well and he has to meet certain KPIs. This is the reason why you never see the UFC increase pay of athletes, because this is how they built the business. And the company, Endeavor Group, which paid the absolute top value for it, they would never be able to do that because the market value of the company would drop significantly. Now they're looking at the investment and they know that they overpaid for it. There's no other group individually in private equity that would come out and go, we'll pay you $11 billion for the UFC, because they know it's not worth it. They know it hit its peak. So what they've been doing is marketing it like crazy. You see this Prime, you see these Nelt guys, all these influencers. If you look at the octagon looking down, there's so many sponsorships now. It looks like a NASCAR. So that's what they've done to generate all this hype, all this marketing. And as I said, the group that actually bought it, Endeavor Group, is headed by a guy named Ari, who's based on the real character of Ari Gold in Entourage, for the guys that like that. So he's all about show business, all about that kind of entertainment. That's why you're seeing UFC start to transition, and that's why you're seeing really bad judging. So they like to build storylines now. Sean O'Malley, great storyline. Obviously, he's going to beat Yarn. But the influence it has from sportsbooks is quite an issue. If you look at guys like Paddy Pimblett, there was a fight recently where he fought. He was odds on to win by KO. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, he won by submission. Now, what is interesting is he's sponsored by Barstool Sportsbook. Barstool put out a promotion just before the fight saying that if he wins by knockout, everybody gets boosted money and gets heaps more money. All of a sudden, he comes in, wins by submission. Now, I'm not saying that the fighters necessarily would throw a fight or anything like that, but they're given incentives. Like, we'll give you an extra 100 grand from your sponsor if you win by sub. We'll give you this if you win by decision. And when it gets to the decision, they obviously make judgment calls, the judges, to get the storylines to go one way or another. Now, this Endeavor Group have realized that they can't sell UFC as a whole to make a profit. So they've gone to the WWE, they packaged it together, they put the two companies together, and now you'll have big crossovers between WWE, UFC, all the entertainment. They'll build the hype around it. It will list on the stock exchange. I think it's under the code TKO. It'll list on the stock exchange in America. They'll build all the hype with all this marketing, sponsoring and everything. The share price will continue to go up, and then it's an exit for this Endeavor, for these guys. They'll be able to sell down the position as retail, as all these normal people want to buy a piece of UFC, want to buy a piece of it. They'll push the share price up buying it. The big instos can dump the stock to them and they get out as an exit for an investment that they overpaid for. So I tried to make this as simple as I possibly can, but it shows you the influence of business on sport. And that's why I say when people gamble on sport, be very careful, because it's in the best interest of the shareholders and they screw over bettors in the meantime. Happy trading.